Magandang umaga, Filipinas. Good morning. You're watching Eagle News Mornings from Canada. I'm Thomas I. Likeness, reporting from our Eagle News studio in the Western Canadian province of Alberta. My city is Edmonton, and we're here to bring you news and commentary from across the country. Good Friday morning. We made it through another week. The end is here. Well, do you have anything planned for the weekend? I'm not sure what I've got going on. I'm just waiting for the list from my wife. She'll keep me busy, I'm sure. But anyway, let's turn our attention now to the weather. AccuWeather forecasting sunshine this morning in Metro Manila, turning cloudy this afternoon. Expect a thunder shower later in the day. High today of 34 with a real feel of 41. Currently a few clouds and 26 in Metro. Feels like it's 31 degrees. The air quality, if you're going out, keep this in mind. Maybe stay in if you got breathing difficulties, because the air quality is rated as poor. Well, the coffee's on, so just wander over there, grab yourself another cup, sit back, relax. Let me tell you what's happening in Canada. First, a look at the weather across my country. Our street scene today, incidentally, comes from Vernon, British Columbia. And thank you to Eagle News correspondent Archie Rose Natividad for this shot. Now, Vernon is in the south-central part of British Columbia, the Okanagan area. And that's an area where they grow a lot of fruit. It's very, very hot in the summertime there. Just an ideal place for orchards. Vernon, British Columbia. Looking at the weather map, starting on the west coast, Victoria mostly cloudy and 13. Light rain in Vancouver, 15 degrees. Across the mountains to Alberta. Edmonton, finally some sunshine today. We got up to 19 degrees. Calgary is mostly cloudy and 16. In Saskatchewan, Regina, mostly cloudy and 16. Saskatoon, clouds and up to 17. Winnipeg, clouds and 19. Now we get into the Toronto area, the Ottawa area, Montreal. They're in the midst of a heat wave, and this is a bit of a long one. This is a real scorcher there. No relief in sight yet in Toronto. Sunny and 33 degrees there. We go up to Ottawa, also very, very hot up there, 34 degrees with some clouds. Montreal, mainly sunny and 30. As we continue on eastward to the Atlantic provinces, they're pretty much blanketed by clouds. Fredericton, 21 degrees, 21 in Halifax, and up in St. John's, Newfoundland, it's cloudy and 17 degrees. Well, here are some of the stories we're following today. Some doctors say the government should change its focus on COVID-19. Canada, not ready to handle a second wave of coronavirus, if one should come. And Quebec is set to clamp down on social gatherings and other events that draw crowds. Oh, and later on in the program, you got to see this guy. Well, he's kind of a four-legged guy. Buckwheat. Buckwheat is a donkey, and we'll have a bit of a story on him coming up later on in the program. But first, a group of doctors, many of them public health experts, say the Canadian government should quit. They should quit trying to eradicate COVID-19. The doctors have sent an open letter to Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and the provincial premiers, and they say instead of trying to wipe out the virus, the government should focus on minimizing it. The letter says people have to accept that COVID-19 will be with us for some time. We have to find ways to deal with it. They say confining people is hurting those, especially in lower income brackets. You see, they're the most likely to end up trapped in their apartments. They don't have a backyard. They don't have a cottage where they can escape to. They've got those four walls that they're confined to. As well, doctors say the cost of maintaining strict public health measures is too high. They say Canadians are missing medical appointments, surgeries canceled, all ultimately leading to more deaths. There's a cost there. As well, education being compromised. And what is going to be the long-term effect for children? Children in school now, if their education is compromised. How is that going to affect their future training, their future career choices? The doctors also note there's been an increase in domestic violence, alcohol and drug intake, food insecurity, that's another one. All of these as a result of lockdowns. All the lockdowns have also taken a toll on mental health. Meanwhile, the Canadian Medical Association warning we could face a second wave of the infection, and it's warning people don't let your guard down. Don't become complacent when it comes to following public health measures. And I'll be talking with one of our correspondents a little bit later on in the program about that, about people just using some common, smarten up, put the mask on. But we'll be talking about that in a bit. The Canadian Medical Association also calling for effective testing, contact tracing, protecting the health of frontline healthcare workers and vulnerable people. And another scary report kind of on this topic. The Canadian Senate report, it says the country's ill prepared for that second wave. The report says we do need better diagnostic testing, contact tracing. Otherwise, how can we effectively contain the new cases? It also says the federal government should be paying more attention to seniors in nursing homes. And you recall, that's where most of the major outbreaks were. That's where most of the deaths occurred. The senators criticizing the government for not acting quickly on implementing infection control programs in nursing homes. And the senators say the government just had no sense of urgency. And they scolded the government for the way seniors in long-term care are treated. And here are their words. These are their words, not mine. Your committee observed with concern that a more compassionate approach is required for residents in long-term care and palliative care. You should ensure that family and friends can visit their loved ones. Hopefully they listen. A COVID-19 outbreak has prompted one of Edmonton's 4 major hospitals to close its doors to new patients. All surgeries at the Misericordia Hospital has been canceled. The emergency room also closed. Misericordia has been dealing with an outbreak for several weeks now. The infection continues to spread. At last count, 20 patients, 15 staff members testing positive. 3 of those patients have died. Now, the closure shouldn't have too much of an effect on patients in the city of Edmonton. See, other hospitals are not operating at capacity, so they should be able to pick up the slack. Well, Calgary may be the next city in Canada to make masks mandatory in all indoor public spaces. Mayor Naheed Nenshi says he's prepared to make it a law if he doesn't see a big increase in mask usage in the next 2 weeks. He's been out and about wandering around the streets, and he says what he notices in stores, on transit, mask usage is way too low. He says he doesn't want to see a second wave of the pandemic. He says, I'm prepared to get tough with people if they don't smarten up. We go to Ottawa now, where Eagle News correspondent Andre Lajoie is standing by. Andre, he's telling me that the Quebec government is going to get tougher, take tougher measures on things like swimming pools, social events, even beaches. Let's hear from him. Good morning, Andre.
Good morning, Tom.
Are you sweltering in that heat there?
Oh, it's pretty hot here in Ottawa. It's getting up to the 40s there, and we can't wait to see that rain coming down.
I hope you got air conditioning.
Oh, we do. Yes, so Tom, last weekend, last Saturday, there was the bars, the pools, and all those places had so many people gathered, but no social distancing and masks. So the government of Quebec will start to shut down bars. Usually the bars are open till 3 o'clock in the morning. But because of what happened last Saturday, many bars and restaurants were open with no social distancing and no mask. So the Quebec government will mandatory a indoor public space to take measures and do something about it, so that the restaurants follow the procedures of keeping distance. A bar or a restaurant that has over 200 people will have to count to 100 people and have more restriction and follow the guidelines, because there's like 20 people last Saturday in one place that got the virus, and they don't know if it's a group of people or what, but the bar was not as full, and then suddenly everybody starts to come in. So the government will take measures, and it will be really strict on the measure, says the Minister of Health and Social Services of Quebec. So the distancing will be very important. If nobody complies to what's the government are asking for, they will have to shut down the restaurant. I mean the bar or restaurants or any places that they don't follow the procedures of the government.
Andre, when you've been out and about, what are your observations on how people are handling things now that we've opened up a little bit? Are they complacent? Are they being diligent about things like masks, distancing, that sort of thing? What have you noticed?
I noticed when I was in Montreal last weekend that many people are still having a hard time to comply with the government and taking distance from others, and people are fighting because some of them believe with the mask, others they don't believe with the mask. They say that the mask doesn't protect as much as what it used to. So there's many problems with that still, with believing on do we have to wear the mask or not, or so it's the government will step up by next week. They're going to have a new law that's going to come out that people will be have to wear those masks everywhere they go, inside a shopping mall or inside any inside places, stores or whatever. It's getting ridiculous to that point that people do not want to follow the procedures anymore.
And this is exactly what the Canadian Medical Association was saying in that story I presented earlier. People can't become complacent. We have to kind of, there's no nice way of saying it, smarten up.
Exactly.
Smarten up. Put a mask on.
Exactly.
And I just don't get it. I don't,
They say the most of the people here in Quebec are saying that because we flatline the line, so there's less people sick, there's less people dying. So they're saying, well, now it's time to party. Let's have fun. Let's open everything, and no more measures, and no more masks, and no more this and that. So yeah, it's not a great idea to just start doing that. We don't want to have a second wave of COVID-19 again coming back here in Canada. So the government will have to step up and do something about that, which they're having a meeting this weekend to discuss about new measures for that.
Andre, you talk about people, especially young people, wanting to party, and that's where we're noticing the increase in cases now, not in seniors, but in younger people. But, our chief medical officer of health, I love her, Dr. Dina Hinshaw, she made one statement that stuck with me. COVID-19 loves a party. And that's one guest you don't want to invite. But, that's certainly an environment where the virus is spread. And that's what we've found here when the government has done the contact tracing, where we've got an outbreak of 20, 30 people. It's all related to a social event, a family event, a potluck dinner. All of these things, we can't do those, at least not right now. There's no
They lost control. They lost control. Yeah, they lost control of everything. Like they were saying, the most people you could have is 10 people, but in your family. Now it's like it's hard to follow up on every house because there's no social distancing anymore. So you don't even know if they're part of family or not, and they're gathered together. They're still having their fun,
Yeah, we can't enforce our way out of it. Yeah, we've got to have some stricter laws, but people have just got to use some common sense and smarten up.
Yes, exactly. So
thank you very much for joining me this morning, Andre. And again, you're always welcome on the program. If you're just joining us, it's 15 minutes past 7 o'clock in Metro Manila, and you're watching Eagle News Mornings live from Canada.
All or nothing na ang magiging labanan sa tagisan ng galing. Dahil ang top 30 ay sasalain na para mabuo ang top 15 semi-finalist.
I'll be praying for.
Tutukan niyan this weekend sa pinakamalawak na talent competition on Philippine TV and online. Ito ang Tagisan ng Galing.
Tagisan ng Galing is presented by SMC Infrastructure, building a better world. Sandig sugar-free white coffee, puno ng white coffee taste without the sugar, kaya lower calories. Try mo na Sandig sugar-free white coffee. Sarap ng white coffee, now sugar-free. Vet-approved Nutrichunks, the only premium dog food with active boost for optimum energy and prebiotics that help strengthen immunity. Just like Catherine Bernardo, gawing listo ganado ang fur babies niyo. Listo ganado sa Nutrichunks. Magnolia Chicken Templados, delicious, ready to cook and freshly marinated daily. Pure Foods Lunch and Meat, pure sarap for every family. Star Chunky Cheese Corned Beef, ang cheesy ng corned beef mo. Walang duda, kids can tell na #1 ang Pure Foods Tender Juicy. Ang tender, ang juicy, ang sarap. Co-presented by Cooper, expert in air conditioning and electromechanical. Also engaged in structural, electrical, fire protection, plumbing, and sanitary services. Cooper, your ultimate MEPS and air conditioning solutions. Unlad Incorporated International, fight against global poverty. New San Jose Builders Incorporated. Canrib Corporation, your ventilation and air conditioning specialist. Vita Herbs Philippines Green Coffee, masarap, mabango, at healthy pa. Puerto Rico Resort and Convention Center, Cabiao, Nueva Ecija. I love Puerto Rico. In participation with Rain or Shine Elastomeric Waterproofing Paint, Matimco, R Square Variables Incorporated, Compizel Enterprises, Saisho International Trading Corporation, DN Steel, EMAC UPB Roof Corporation.
Hey, Gretchen Ho here, and I'm a white coffee lover. Creamy kasi, and very yummy. Pero mas masarap kung hindi nakaka-guilty. Check my new discovery, San-Made Sugar-Free White Coffee. Puno ng white coffee taste without the sugar, kaya lower calories. Try mo na! San-Made Sugar-Free White Coffee. Sarap ng white coffee, now sugar-free.
The Bulacan Bulk Water Project is a treatment facility that will provide bulk water to the 24 municipalities of Bulacan to meet the increasing water demand of its residents. Through concessionaire, SMC Infrastructure also initiated the significant improvements of the Manila North Harbor Port, the country's busiest port.
Listo at ganado ang baby ko sa vet-approved Nutrichunks with active boost and prebiotics na pampalisto. Made with real meat, with essential nutrients to help them grow healthy and happy. Listo, ganado sa Nutrichunks.
Ikaw lang ang star ng buhay ko. Para sa akin, perfect ka. Ibang klase ang sarap ng corned beef mo. Ang cheesy ng corned beef mo. Pag Star Chunky Cheese Corned Beef, sarap ng corned beef, inangat pa ng real cheese cubes. Kaya perfect ang sarap. Star Chunky Cheese Corned Beef.
This is Eagle News Mornings from Canada. I'm Thomas Likeness. It's 20 minutes past 7, 26 degrees in Metro Manila. Well, in Ontario, Eagle News correspondent April Masong-Song tells us the provincial government wants to ensure high school students aren't limited in future career choices.
It is a long-standing practice for grade 9 students in Ontario to choose between the applied or academic streams as they enter high school. This choice will decide on the kind of courses that they will take for the next 4 years of their study. The applied stream focuses on courses that involve more hands-on application, trade skills, and apprenticeship, while the academic stream focuses on courses that are more theoretical in its approach. Students in the academic stream can apply to both university and college programs, whereas students in the applied stream can only apply to college programs. The Ontario government proposes to remove the academic streaming system of grade 9 students. Research shows that the academic streaming in high school has negatively impacted Black and low-income class students, limiting their post-secondary and career choices in the future. Racialized students are pushed more towards the applied stream, thereby setting them up for limited post-secondary and career choices. Minister of Education Stephen Lache acknowledges the long-standing systemic barriers within this practice. He stated that there's a disproportionate level of Black students and racialized students are streamed. 45% of those students are not graduating and 33% are not pursuing post-secondary education. We have a problem. John Malloy, Director of Education and Toronto District School Board, TDSB, also reveals that the education system has been fighting the work against the streaming of grade 9 students for a while. Take a listen. However, more work needs to be done so that Black and Indigenous students are effectively served in TDSB. De-streaming is a great first step. However, this change is necessary and complex and will need much support and accountability so that students are successful. Premier Doug Ford also gives his comment on this proposed change in the education system. Take a look.
50% of Black students don't go on to the academic side of high school, which is unfair when one in five or vast majority of students, let's say 90% or 80%, I should say, go on to the academic level. And the other thing that I've never found fair with this, you're asking a 14-year-old child to make a decision in grade 9 where the rest of their high school career and post-secondary schools that they're going to. And I just don't think it's right. It's a broken system. We've heard nothing but positive remarks from communities, and I've heard it from teachers, I've heard it from everyone across the board. So I think it's a really good move for the parents and the students and the teachers.
This year, the COVID-19 pandemic has exposed the systemic inequities and racial injustices that are still deeply embedded in society. One aspect where meaningful change can start is within the education system, and removing the streaming process is the first step. If students are expected to make wise and informed decisions when it comes to their future, it is also their right to have equal access to as many post-secondary and career opportunities as possible, regardless of their economic status or race. In Toronto, April Masangsong, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
Well, a lot of us use video conferencing software these days to communicate during the pandemic, just one of those things that has changed. But many of those work meetings we get dragged into, they're tedious. Well, there's no nice way of saying this. They're boring. How can you liven them up? Well, this animal sanctuary in Ontario, Canada, they're in dire need of cash after being forced to close to visitors. This animal sanctuary has found a way to solve its cash problem and your boredom problem.
Guys, what's happening? What is
that, a donkey?
What is even happening right now?
Oh my god.
Oh my god. He's so cute.
Hello, we're crashing your meeting. We're crashing your meeting. This is Buckwheat. Buckwheat is a famous meeting crasher. We would normally have visiting days where the public comes out to meet these guys and feed them treats. And we can't do that right now, so Buckwheat is making all the money.
See, Buckwheat lives at the Farmhouse Garden Animal Home. Tim Forrest, he's the fellow you heard speaking there. He volunteers at the animal sanctuary. Tim says Buckwheat is ready to inject some fun into your humdrum work-from-home office day for a price.
So Buckwheat is crashing people's meetings in order to make some money. They donate to the sanctuary when they wanted to crash a meeting. And so it's mostly a fundraiser so we can feed the cows, especially during COVID.
Now, I'm sure Buckwheat might have a little more to say than some of the donkeys in head office. In sports, Eagle sports reporter Tenny Sumagi brings us up to date on Portland Trailblazers of the NBA and a couple of their players, Carmelo Anthony and CJ McCollum.
It's been a rough 2020 season in the NBA, but the new normal leaves Carmelo Anthony and CJ McCollum a greater appreciation on life.
this year has been a roller coaster. Like, I mean, especially for me personally, you know, being home off for a year and some change, away from the game, getting an opportunity to see the game, get away from the game, kind of just build myself up from a mental standpoint, emotional standpoint, getting over that, coming to Portland with the unknown of what's going to happen, but taking a chance and you know, moving to a place where I had no idea of what Portland was other than going to the Nike campus. That was the only thing I knew about Portland. So being able to do that and then playing and enjoying and just the joy of coming back, the excitement, and then to lose my brother Kobe in this same year, dealing with that, you know, emotional roller coaster, to fast forward to the coronavirus. Like, it's been a very rocky, up and down, weird season emotionally, but this is a season that I'll never forget, because this season is almost jump-started something for me, and not just from a basketball standpoint, just from an overall standpoint.
Having some time to slow down, you gain a greater appreciation for life. Seeing so many people, you know, battle, you know, so many different things, obviously starting with COVID, starting with the sickness, starting with people losing jobs, losing work, and to now, you know, what we're seeing, you know, in America with the protesting, what we're seeing with the systemic racism that's continuing to haunt us to this day. There's just a lot of different obstacles being thrown at you. So you have to be able to, you know, find your safe spaces, really just enjoy, you know, your loved ones and the company that you have. And I think, you know, 100 and something days in your household, you know, you've grown closer to whoever you live with, whoever you're with the most. And I think that's important. And I think a lot of times we lose sight of that, you know, with our jobs, with our goals, with our successes and our failures, that, you know, obviously you never want a tragic event like this virus to happen, but it gives you a chance to collect yourself and gain more perspective. So I think, if anything, I've just gained more perspective and appreciation of life in general, and how precious it is, because it can be gone in an instant.
As for jerseys, McCollum plans to engrave the words education on the back of his jersey. As for Melo, he hasn't quite thought of what words to put, but hopes that it will be an inspirational message. In New York, Teddy Sumagi, Eagle News, we live in interesting times.
And we've got some programming changes coming to EBC. Starting on Monday, this time slot will be filled by Agila Belita. Our Canadian program, well, we're moving to middays, 11 o'clock in the morning. We hope you can join us then. That's our program for today, and on behalf of the Canadian News team, I wish you all good health. Take care of others, take care of yourselves. Stay home, stay safe, and stay tuned to Eagle News for accurate and balanced coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic and other current affairs. In Edmonton, Canada, Thomas I. Likeness, Eagle News. We live in interesting times. Stay tuned for Be Brighter.